Okay, we're going to do 10.2, congruent triangles. Really pretty easy. So we're going to be naming some corresponding parts, using congruent statements, and finding missing angles. It says name the corresponding parts in the congruent triangle shown, then complete the congruency statement. So basically when you look at this, these are two congruent triangles, and it's super important that you follow the angles. And you'll notice that one arc means that angle D is congruent to angle H because it has one arc. Two arc, angle E is congruent to angle G, and angle F is congruent to I. But if you look at this right here, it's saying triangle HGI, so triangle HGI, so it goes from one arc to two arc to three arc, is congruent to angle triangle, D, E, F. Do not assume that it goes alphabetically. You got to match it angle to angle. So now when you look at this, you can see that angle H is congruent to angle D. Angle G is congruent to angle E, and angle I is congruent to angle F, because you already have it matched up. Those would be corresponding congruent parts. You can also match sides. So you can say side HG, so right here, one arc to two arc, that side is congruent to DE. So DE, one arc to two arc, and you would put a slash for that. Then you can say side GI, right here, G to I, put two arcs, is congruent to EF. And then the last one would be HI is congruent to DF. So HI is congruent to DF, just like that. So if you line it up right from the beginning, your triangles, and you match angle to angle, you don't even need to look at the triangles anymore. You can just match the pieces based on how you set your letters up, as long as you set them up correctly. So when it says to you, correspond to all the parts, you have to know that there are 6 parts to a triangle. There are 3 angles and 3 sides. So I match all 3 of the angles up. So those are the corresponding angles. Remember, this is the congruent sign. And then I match up the corresponding sides. And there are 3 sides to match up. And you have to make sure you're matching them up angle to angle. So if I say side DE is congruent to GH, that would be incorrect because angle D matches with angle H. So I have to make sure I'm matching the angles up when I match the sides up as well. Next one, it says triangle ABC is congruent to what triangle? So you really got to pay attention to this. It went from 1 arc to 3 arc to 2 arc. So I need to make sure I go from 1 arc. So I'll say triangle, 1 arc to 3 arcs to 2 arcs. So notice it's not alphabetically done, but I matched angle to angle. So when I correspond my 6 parts, I can say angle A is congruent to D, angle B is congruent to F, and angle C is congruent to E. Then I match my sides, and I would say AB, side AB, is congruent to DF. Side BC is congruent to FE, and side AC is congruent to DE. It all lines up perfectly. And please notice that you need to keep your symbols. You know what we talk about all the time is that you got to keep your symbols straight. So notice I have an angle symbol in front of my angles, and then when I talk about the sides, I have a line segment. And when I talk about the triangles, I have a triangle symbol in front of them. Notice it's not an equal sign in between, it's a congruent symbol. So that's matching up the corresponding parts. Here, see, it's not giving you the picture, but you don't need the picture because as long as this triangle is matched up directly with this triangle, you already know that M is corresponding and congruent to Q, and N is corresponding and congruent to P, and O is corresponding and congruent to R. And then you can go ahead and do the sides and match all those out. Well, I just did that for you. And then it figures them all out for you. So it matches them all for you. So this one, you use the arcs to show this so that you can show how you represent congruency with different symbols on your triangles. So angle M, one arc goes with angle Q. Angle O, two arc goes with angle R. Three arcs means that angle N is congruent to P. And then you use slashes, as you saw me do before, to represent the sides that are congruent to each other. So that's drawing the triangles. Do the same thing with this process right here. You can see that angle A is congruent to D, angle B is congruent to E, angle C is congruent to F, line segment AB is congruent to DE, line segment EF right here is congruent to BC, and so on. A brace is used to support a tabletop in the figure. Same kind of thing. So it's matching up your angles for you already, so you can clearly see that which angles are congruent and which sides are congruent. This is what is the measurement of angle F? Well, angles C and F are congruent, so if C is 50, then F is 50. And the next question is going to ask you, what is the measurement of FD? Well, if CA is congruent to FD, and that's 2 feet, then obviously this would be 2 feet, because they're corresponding congruent triangles. Pretty easy. And we already answered that one. Same process here. It's already matched up for you. So you can see angle B is congruent to angle E, so it would be 44 degrees. And line segment or side EF is congruent to BC. So if BC is 22 inches, then EF is 22 inches. Done. Fastest lesson ever.